Welcome to Crafts of Ireland video on our needle felting kit. So today we're going to make an Irish cottage, and in this box we have everything that you will need. The only extra tool required to complete the picture is a small sharp scissors. So let's open the box and go through what we have in our contents. So we have the picture on the front of what the finished piece should look like, and this is our original one that we have made that we're going to use to copy today. And then we're going to open the box, and in it we have for you 3 felting needles. We have a sponge and our felting fabric, and the sponge is reusable. You can use that over and over again. And then we have our fibres, which are mainly from our own sheep dyed here, washed and dyed here on our farm. So blue and white for our sky, and white for our sheep and for our cottage. Some various greens for our landscape, some dark green for our trees, some dark brown to make the heads for the sheep and to make the trunks of the trees, some natural grey, and that is going to be for our stone walls, another shade of dyed grey to make our hills in the distance, some light natural grey for the pathway into the house, some red for the door and roof, and everything in that will complete your picture, and you still have some fibres left over. So join me and we will start making our picture. So I am going to work on this. I will take one of the needles out. They're safely packed, nice, environmentally friendly, in a little piece of cardboard. And I am going to use my original picture to copy. So first of all, I am going to take some of the blue fibre, and that is what is going to make our sky. So I am going to open the fibres out and blend them. And I do that by pulling the fibres out and keeping them aligned back nice and straight. So just pull the fibres straight out, lay it back on your fibres in your hand, and get them nice and even. So they are all opened out. We'll add a little bit of white, just to add some clouds in the sky. Just a wee bit today. I'm going to mix that through. And that's plenty for our sky. And then I always hold the fibre under my left hand and pull it with my right hand across the sponge till I have a nice layer of colour laid down. And we're going to use about a third, just over a third of our canvas for the sky. It's wool from our own sheep, so there may be a little bit of vegetable matter in it, but can we just pick that out? And if we want to, we can add some extra clouds. Just lay some white over that. Then take our needle. Just be careful with your needle. They are extremely sharp. We don't want you to stick them in your finger. And the other thing about them is that they need to be worked in a straight up, straight down motion. So you need to work straight up and straight down with your needle. And what you're doing is, with the barbs on the needle, you are pushing the fibres down into the fabric, and the sponge underneath works to protect your needle. And it also protects the surface that you are working on. So over and back, nice and carefully, keeping your hand out of the way. We're going to felt in the sky. So you just want to felt it enough that it is securely held in place. It's nicely flattened down. If you felt it and there are some holes left from your needle, you can just rub the surface and you should be able to gently remove the needle marks. And that is our sky felted in. When I'm not working, I try to leave the needle in the corner of the sponge. So we have our sky in place. Next thing we need to do is we need to felt in some hills in the distance. So taking some of the grey, a small amount. We want to put it into the distance so that we give some depth to the picture. So I've just taken a small piece of grey, I've opened it up, and using the length of the fibre, just place it down on the sponge. And I would always felt the top of the hill first. No two pictures are ever going to be identical, so it doesn't have to be exactly the same as the picture on the box, but you can use it for a guide. And we have another hill on the other side, so we're going to felt that in as well. And it's just peeping up in the distance. So there we go. We have some grey now in the background. I'm going to add a tiny bit more. And each time you are overlapping your colours, so these grey hills are up on the sky and our green is going to sit in over them. So it's going to come next. So that's our hills in the distance. So that is what we have done now. And the next thing I'm going to do is add some of our greens. So I would always work with the darkest greens first, and we can put another little area in over that. Because these walls are naturally dyed, there's a selection of shades within each piece, and that makes felting with them much easier. And again, using my needle straight up and straight down. And we will add a bit in the middle. So I've just added some darker green into the background. So you can see where the green is coming in over the dark grey in the background. And I am going to work my way down by using the different greens that I have. So we can even blend some of the greens together to get more of a variation in shades. We don't have to worry about leaving out a space for the cottage, because we're going to put it in after. So all I want to do now is get my colours laid down. So I'm going to pick some of the darker pieces. And the greens are going to vary slightly in each box that we send out, because they are all hand dyed and the colours are not always going to be the exact same. I'm just picking different shades and adding them in. That'll add some depth to our picture. And work our way across the front. And this bit there, so I'm just going to top it up with an extra bit. And we're going to check then if you have access to a 5x7 mount, you can use that to see how your picture is coming along. Now very quickly I have filled in the green into the picture. And again, put the mount over it. And we have our hills, our foreground and our sky felted in. So that was quick enough to do. Then when we have that done, we have to decide where our placement of the other pieces are in it too. So if we are going with cottage, I would generally put that in first. So I'm going to take the white and I'm going to take a piece of that and I am going to straighten it out and then roll it into a little little rectangle, approximately the size of the front of our cottage. And we'll place that roughly 1/3 up into our picture. And I'm going to use one end for a gable. I'm going to lightly around the edges, felt that into place, and then I'll come back with some more fibre if I need it. So you can see where our cottage is going to be. Just be careful not to lift fibres with your fingers, because that will break your needle. When we put the cottage in first, we can decide then where everything else goes in the picture. I'm going to take an extra little bit of white and put it on the front of the cottage. And the scissors can be useful for this as well, if you want to tidy it up. So that's our cottage. I don't need that bit, so I'm just going to trim it off. And just tidying in my edges. Next goes our red roof. So take a piece of red. So you can see where our cottage is sitting in the picture. And if we want, we can even add a little bit of this light grey to the gable to give some extra depth and shade. So over the white end of the cottage, we can add a tiny bit of grey. We'll add a little bit more depth of colour to it. We want the cottage nice and flat because we have to put some windows and doors in it. Then we're going to take our red roof. So that's where we are so far. So next we're going to add our red roof, and we are going to add our doors. So I'm just going to take some of the red, a small piece, to open that, and again I'm going to very lightly roll it into a rectangle. And a cottage has always quite low walls, so I am going to bring it down quite low. And I'm going to felt it up in shape, and any excess I have I can trim off. And always on a roof, you might see a little bit of red or whatever colour it is peeping at the edge of the other gable. I'm going to show you where we are now. So that's our roof on our cottage. And the next thing I am going to do is add the door. So I need a very, very small piece of fibre. Again, I'm going to make it into a little rectangle size of the door. The door will be in the middle of the front, and neatly going to work it in. And again, take the scissors, and I'm just going to trim that little piece of fibre. And again, we're going to take now our dark brown and the tiniest little bit. You can just see it on the top of my finger. Just the tiniest little bit of fibre is all it takes to make a window. So we just want the impression of one being there. And the top of your window is going to be at the same height as the top of the door, because your lintels, what supports doors and windows, are all put in at the front of a house, tiny bit extra at the same height. And again, tiny bit of fibre for our second window. Drop it down on it and work it round till you have your window felted in. And you want your windows and doors to be nice and small. I haven't done it on the original picture, but if you want, take a tiny piece of white and we can put a little chimney on the roof. And again, I'll show you this when we have it done. Just a little piece of white sticking up. And again, scissors is very handy. Just chop off any extra bits we don't need. So there we have our cottage now with our windows and doors and a little chimney in place. Now, when we have them added, we now know where everything else is going to go. So the next thing in our original picture was a stone wall. So I'm using this natural grey, it's Shetland, it's Irish wool as well, and I'm using that for our stone wall. So I am going to take that, we'll move those out of the way. I am going to take that, and I'm going to put a wee stone wall coming from the end of our house across, and to do that you just stab randomly to get some texture into the wall. You don't want to stab the whole lot flat, you just want to leave it that it looks like there's some stone in the wall. And we can bring that right over to the edge. And there we have a stone wall. We can tidy that up afterwards. And on the other side, we have path from the front of the house. So I am taking a tiny bit of the light grey. And the thing to remember with the path is vanishing points. So the path is going to be smaller at the door of the house and it's going to get wider as it comes to the front of our picture. So if we want to put in a little path coming out of our house, that path is narrow at the door of the house and gets wider as it comes down the picture. And we can felt that out of the way. So we have added a little path. And in the original picture, we put a roadway traveling in front of the house. So we can do that again. For that, I'm using some of this light natural grey wool. So it look like an old stone road. And again, we have to remember that it's going to be wider at the front and it's going to disappear up into the distance. And I'm just going to put that much in now and I'll come back and top it up later. It'll just give us some idea of where we're going with our picture. And we can do another little bit of green just in there. So along the side of the road, I have some more stone wall. So some more of our grey. Again, that is going to disappear along with the road as it travels up into the distance. And we'll put in some along there. The road is going to hide down in behind it. And another piece then as we come to the front. Okay, so I need to highlight my road a little better. Add another piece over that. Again, every picture can be different. If you wanted to, you could add some stone wall on the opposite side of the road as well. Add a little bit more for texture. So you can have the freedom to change things around and make them how you think they should be. And if we put a bit there, we can add another bit here and put in a gateway. And to highlight them, I would sometimes add a little bit of dark over the top, and we'll show you then how our picture is looking. Just do this, and then I'm going to show you where we're at with our picture. And we're missing a little bit here. So we now have a roadway and we have a path into the front of the house. And again, you can change the pathways, you can change the direction of them, and you can change where you actually place the house in your picture. And we can add a tiny bit more to extend that wall right out to the edge. And sometimes if we have a wall, we would have some green growing slightly up against it, so you can put some texture with a little bit of green at the back of the wall. And again, along the road, from the side of it that you see, you can add a little bit of green. And just show you again what we've done. So if you can see on that, I've just added a little bit of green to the bottom of the wall to show where some grass might be growing up against it. So almost there. The sheep are in this field. Put them in next. So the sheep are very small. And have lots of fibre over it. I like to keep the colours separate so that if you want to use them for a second picture, that you do have the same selection. So for the sheep, because they're tiny little sheep, I'm just going to take a little bit of white, roll it up into a little almost rectangle, put it down, and all I'm doing with this is working right around the edge because I want to leave the sheep slightly raised looking. You don't need to give them legs, sheep can be lying down. So if you want to keep it simple, just felt in a little body like that. And then come in with a tiny little bit of black for a dot for a head. And you can always give it a trim if you have too much. So in the original picture there was 3 sheep. We can get away with 2 today. Our field is slightly smaller because I've added some more walls. And if a sheep is further away, they can be slightly smaller. Again, the tiniest little bit of black is going to make a head. And I'm just tidying up around the picture. So now we have our 2 sheep in the field, and all we have left to do is add some trees to give a little bit more depth to our picture. So we are going to take some of the dark brown again, and I'm going to make the trunk of a tree. So I'm just going to take a piece of fibre about that length. And the first thing I am going to do is felt it to where I want the tree to grow. So I'm just felting it here to where the tree is going to grow. And then I'm taking my needle and I'm working on the edges of it, twisting it slightly till I get up to the height I want the trunk of the tree to be. And when I reach that stage, I'm going to take all the fibre that I have and I am going to divide it out to give some branches in the background. And again, if we have it long enough, we can trim them with the scissors. So I just need to put in a few branches because I'm going to put some green over it. And that is all. I just need a skeleton of a tree. And when I'm at it, I am going to add a second tree as well. So again, some brown fibre. And this one will grow from behind the wall over on this side. And I can see how I am needle felting in the trunk. I have rolled it slightly and I'm just working along the edge, and then this is going to be with branches in the fluffy part that I've left. You can decide the shape of the trees when you're doing this as well. And we've gone a little bit high, just get rid of that. So that is background in for our two trees. All we've left to do now is take our darkest green and quickly put the leaves on the trees. So I've left this piece to last, and with my scissors I am going to chop off some little bits. And I'm going to use them to make the greenery. So these are going to be proportional. The green is going to be proportional to the size of the trunk of the tree. And you just want to lightly felt in the foliage onto the trees because you don't want to lose that texture and fluffiness. And this is the other piece that I chopped up. I'm just going to spread it lightly. And take a little bit more. And the last bit. And that is our picture finished. So from our kit, we have quickly made an Irish cottage needle felted picture. And thank you very much for joining us today, and look forward to seeing the pictures when you have them completed. Please do share them with us on our social media on Facebook and Instagram. Till our next video, thank you very much from Crafts of Ireland.